Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you another video. All right, so I'm listening to analysts talk about the Boston Celtics and the Pacers. I'm doing my own homework, and I'm trying to come to some type of prediction and conclusion, and kind of some understanding of how I want to break down this series from my point of view. First of all, the series starts tomorrow. All of the games in this series are going to be 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, except for Game 3. It's going to be at 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. So other than that's the way it's set up right now. Unless some changes are to be, that's what we will see every other day, which is key. These teams have seen each other 4 times this season on the record, 5 times literally, because there was a game where they played in the in-season tournament, and it shifted back and forth. Celtics, Pacers, Celtics, Pacers, Celtics, Pacers, Celtics. Yeah, that's how that went. Every other game was won by the other team. So um, the series starts in Boston, and the matchups pretty much favor. Um, there's no real imbalance here. You see a lot of balance with these two teams as it pertains to what you would expect to see on paper. From player to player, the matchups are fantastic. I think the separation is one team is expected to play defense, the other team doesn't play any defense at all, and that's a real thing because the Boston Celtics shoot a lot of threes and play a lot of defense. So if the Pacers are one of the best offensive teams in the league, which they are, one of the best offensive teams we've ever seen, really, when you look at their offensive rating, the problem that the Pacers could potentially run into is they're just not going to get enough stops, and the Boston Celtics are going to shoot enough threes to keep up with them offensively, on top of the defense that the Celtics play, which should get, in theory, some stops against this fantastic offense. Now, here's something I'm looking at. The Boston Celtics are down 2 big men. Sending condolences to Xavier Tillman and his family. He lost his dad, I think, this morning. So Xavier Tillman is going to be removed from at least game 1. He'll probably come back at some point in the series. Obviously, that's touch and go. Porzingis is out to start this series. Don't know when he's coming back. Probably sometime in the series, but not sure. Definitely not game 1 tomorrow. That's some size issues there, some size depth concerns for me. Miles Turner, Jalen Smith, Isaiah Jackson, obviously Pascal Siakam. The thing about the Pacers that I've come to respect throughout the course of these playoffs is that they have been able to stay healthier than the teams that they're facing. And I want to say that I don't know that that's going to be the determining factor for this series because the Boston Celtics have such strong starting players in other positions that are tall enough and long enough to play out of position. And you talk about Al Horford, who's playing great at the center position. Neemias Queta, who's been playing great with the minutes given. So they do have centers, but they don't have their main guys. But their backup guys can do the things that you want the main guys to do. Al Horford can stretch the floor. Maybe not as well as Porzingis, but he plays great defense. He can block shots. He can rebound the ball. He's got energy. He plays a lot younger than his body actually is. So you don't expect that he won't be able to elevate his game. It's near championship time. He's yet to get his first ring, but he's played as if he's won like 2 or 3 rings in his career. So I expect the future Hall of Famer Al Horford to play well in those guys' absence. Plus, we understand that they haven't really used Xavier Tillman at all. So I don't know he would have got much run in this series very much, but you love the depth. The point is to have that player available, and he won't be. With Porzingis out, he won't be. So what you end up finding is opportunities, if you're the Pacers, to try to get Al Horford in foul trouble, knowing that you got to deal with Neemias Queta. And that should be able to soften things up for you as it pertains to the talent level coming at you. The ability to stretch the floor with that player. Now they got to play offense a little differently because they don't have that threat pulling centers away from the three-point arc. So that's going to be one thing to look at. It's just the depth. And I tell you, one of the reasons why the Pacers are still around is because they're not afraid to use their bench. They have a very good bench and they use it. TJ McConnell, as I said, Isaiah Jackson, Aaron Naismith, depending on how they use him, I think he will be starting in the series. But the point is, the depth for the Pacers is extensive, and they're not afraid to play these players 15, 16, 17 minutes in these playoffs, as to which the teams in the Eastern Conference, including the Boston Celtics, would prefer not to go to their bench very often. This has worked in the Pacers' favor throughout the course of these playoffs against Philly and against the New York Knicks, two very scrappy teams. See, a lot of people will mention that the Pacers have had an easy path in the playoffs. But what I believe is that they've played depleted teams that play significantly harder than you would see on average. So even though the Philadelphia 76ers were depleted, they had to deal with scrappy, hard-playing dudes. Dudes that dive for loose balls, 50-50 balls, play on a rough edge, and they were able to overcome them dudes somehow. The Pacers did. Good defensive play in Philadelphia. All the different stuff that Philadelphia brought to the table. Even though Joel Embiid was in and out of the series, they still had to find a way to overcome Tyrese Maxey, Buddy Hield, Kelly Oubre Jr., and all the different players that the Philadelphia 76ers had. And I think even though you don't look at the Pacers as a good defensive team at all, they somehow defeated good defensive teams. The New York Knicks, they got the Knicks to 7 games. Of course, the Knicks lost literally everybody. Just about everybody you could think of went down with some type of significant injury. And the Pacers walk out of the series healthy. And with these games being every other game, and the Celtics starting the series already down 2 players for different reasons. But health is not on the Celtics side, and depth is not on the Celtics side. And the Pacers love to run. Meaning they're going to tire you out. And those 6 guys that you're going to use, you're going to be playing every other night, and they're going to be running with the Pacers, who don't mind using their bench with the 15, 16 minutes of a game off the bench players. And then you got to consider what I already said, which is the matchups are pretty fairly even. You got Al Horford going up against Miles Turner. That's neck and neck. Miles Turner probably should edge out the older Al Horford. At this stage in their game, they're both vets, both chasing down their first championship. I expect big series out of both of them dudes. And then you look at Pascal Siakam, Jason Tatum. Well, obviously you're going to give the edge to Jason Tatum. But if Jason Tatum's having a bad night and Pascal Siakam's having a good night, it's 2 all-stars going up against each other. Both tall, both have the ability to play defense, both have the ability to get to the line, repeatedly get their calls. Both of them can go for 40 points. So is it a crazy world where I see a possibility where Pascal Siakam outplays Jason Tatum? Nah, that ain't crazy at all. I don't expect it. I do think Jason Tatum's a better player, but Pascal is comparable enough to where if he's playing great and Jason Tatum's having a tough series, he will have better overall production in that regard. Expect Jason Tatum to win the series, the matchup there, but not by much. Maybe not by enough. And then you look at Aaron Naismith versus Derek White. These are 2 guys. Derek White is playing fantastic. You would give the edge to Derek White because he's a bigger name, plays fantastic defense. Derek White is just a more known player. But the way Naismith has been playing these playoffs, he has been the anti-Oubre. He's been the anti-Josh Hart, in the sense that when you need someone to dive for a 50-50 ball or get a key offensive rebound or make a key 3-point play at the rim and make the free throw, he's been a guy you can go to who can play at a level that's above what you would expect of him. And since he's still a developing player, you don't actually know how good he's going to be. Unlike a Derek White, who is who he's going to be. I wouldn't be surprised if Aaron Naismith makes a name for himself in this series and proves himself over the next 10 years to be as good as Derek White. And this is day 1 of that process. You see what I'm saying? They got young players that are still proving themselves, and you don't actually know how good they are. You don't know. And so with a guy like Aaron Naismith, I don't think it's crazy to look at him and say he can match Derek White's production. Different position. Naismith, a small forward. Derek White's a shooting guard, point guard position player. But you expect, if any defense is coming out of that starting lineup, in my opinion, if it ain't coming from Miles Turner's rim protection, it's going to come from Aaron Naismith's ability to play some defense out there. They're going to need defensive stops if you're the Pacers. But what I'm trying to tell y'all is the Celtics are heavily favored to win the series. But if you look really close at what's going on here, this is tight. This is tight. You look at Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday should have a fantastic series. He's going to have opportunities to go up against a guy who has never been here before. Of course, Drew Holiday won a championship with the Bucks 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever it was. But he's going up against a guy by the name of Tyrese Halliburton, who is an amazing point guard, who doesn't turn the ball over at all in a lot of cases. In fact, he was at the start of the season was the guy who didn't turn the ball over but seemed to get 16 and 17 assists. And he's getting healthier by the second in the sense that he's coming back from a bad leg strain. And he's starting to slowly but surely become back to his regular self from earlier in the season when he was basically an MVP candidate. That's who I expect the Celtics to be running into, is a very high-level Tyrese Halliburton who, like Aaron Naismith, isn't fully who he's going to be as of yet. Still a young player, superstar, but still becoming himself. As to where I look at a Jaylen Brown, and I know what I'm getting from Jaylen Brown. 30 points, probably 4 assists, 8 rebounds, 7 turnovers if they play good enough defense against him, and that's the point. Jaylen Brown is going to have to take care of the basketball. Usually around this time of year, Jaylen Brown is always a superstar, but his left hand dribbling issues always get the best of him this time of year. And usually the Celtics end up disappearing around this time of year because they can't go to Jaylen Brown and expect to not turn the ball over. In the games where they lost to the Indiana Pacers, they turned the ball over and didn't win the rebounding edge. And that's who I'm looking at. Can you take care of the ball in this series against a bad defensive team against the Pacers, or a bad defensive team, but are going to have hounding defensive players on you? Aaron Naismith will likely take on Jason Tatum, according to some of those guys, but I think he's going to have the Jaylen Brown match up at times too. And then you look at a guy by the name of Andrew Nembhard, another one of them dudes who's not yet who he's going to be, but it's still shown in these playoffs and over the course of the years that he's been in this league over the last 2 years. He's shown me as a Laker fan in one of the best games he ever played exactly who he is. So I have a healthy understanding and fear for him. So when I look at that backcourt that the Boston Celtics have, which is probably their strongest point, you got your Pritchard, you got the Jaylen Brown, you got Holiday, you got Derek White. When I look at the Pacers and I say they're comparable in a way, they're not as good as those guys, but they're also not as developed as those guys. So if they step into their own and it turns out they are as good as those guys or better than those guys, nobody should be surprised. And tomorrow could be day one of that process. So when I look at TJ McConnell and I look at Peyton Pritchard coming off the bench, okay, TJ McConnell may be better than Peyton Pritchard, even though Peyton is fantastic. I think TJ is going to be better than him. I look at Drew Holiday. Okay, Drew Holiday's NBA champion, fantastic point guard. I'm looking at Tyrese Halliburton. Okay, Tyrese Halliburton's a little better than Drew Holiday. Andrew Nembhard. And then I look over at Derek White. Okay, or Naismith and Derek White, if I wanted to keep it consistent. Okay, Naismith could win that matchup if Derek White's not shooting well. If Derek White's not having a great series where he can go hot and cold, he can go 4 for 17. That can be a problem for the Celtics going up against him. And then, you got the Andrew Nembhard and Jaylen Brown. Obviously, Jaylen Brown's expected to win that matchup if we're going to stay consistent and not pairing him up with someone else. But you can see where Nembhard can go crazy, win a game-winning shot, get a key steal, hit a couple free throws down the stretch of these games. And I'm looking at Pascal Siakam and I'm saying, Pascal has won an NBA championship himself. He's the other guy on the other end of this who knows what it takes, just like Drew Holiday does, to win a championship. So you have that championship experience on both sides of both teams. The coach situation is where also favors the Pacers, because you know that the coach of the Pacers has won a championship with the Dallas Mavericks several years ago. And you look at the Celtics coach, and we know that's their weakest link. Mazzulla is not that great of a coach. We know that. He wants to overshoot the 3 ball. Sometimes he drops games, particularly in these playoffs, game 2. And I tell you, both teams have had what people would consider an easy path. But in my mind, the Pacers' path has not been that easy. The Celtics' path has been one of the most ridiculously easy paths anyone has ever seen. Any conference, any year in the NBA history. This has been probably the easiest cakewalk I've ever seen. Even easier than the Denver Nuggets last year when they won the championship. The Celtics have played a depleted Miami Heat team that didn't have no Rozier, no Jimmy, and that team ain't that talented to begin with. And then they moved on to play a Cleveland team that by the end of the series didn't hardly have anybody on the court that could play for them. Donovan Mitchell missed a good majority of the second half of that series. You know what I'm saying? It just Jared Allen missed some games in that series. It's a depleted and easy situation to where they would have beat those Cleveland Cavaliers even if they were fully healthy. It would not have been a problem for the Celtics to win the Cavaliers. Now they're going up against a Pacer team who's had to beat the Philadelphia 76ers, who are scrappy and defensive as hell, with a big body 7-footer Joel Embiid, who won the NBA MVP last season. And then they had to go against the Cinderella Knicks out there with all that Villanova energy that they brought to the table and all these different guys that played hard. They found a way to overcome them. I think most of that had to do with injuries on the Knicks side. But at the end of the day, you had to play hard to beat both of those teams. You couldn't waltz into those arenas like the Celtics did going into Cleveland and going into Miami, lollygag and win those series. You had to go balls out to beat those 2 teams, Philly and New York. Big city, gritty arenas with a lot of pride and a lot of history and a lot of funk for you. And Indy came in there and took them down. I'm telling you that the Boston Celtics are going to have to elevate their game in a way that they have not been asked to be tested in order to win the series. And I do not trust Mazzulla well enough to believe that he's going to do that without Porzingis and with a bench that he would rather not use. Peyton Pritchard is going to play big off the bench. Sam Hauser is going to shoot the ball well off the bench. 3 balls is very important. Some of the other guys, it's slipped my mind. There's another player that comes to mind, but this center position, Sam Merrill, I think his name is, going to have to play well because T.J. McConnell is coming. Isaiah Jackson is going to play well off the bench. Obi Toppin, a guy I always forget is on that Pacer team, going to help run the score up and create a lot of problems in transition. A lot of problems in transition. The Celtics cannot allow Obi Toppin to have a 25, 30-point game off that bench, which he's very prone to do if given the right amount of minutes. So the thing about it is this. Not only are the Pacers healthier, but they run at a pace that's supposed to wear down the other team, and they run the score up in a way that makes it so that if you're not playing at a level where you can keep up with that pace and you're already depleted because of injuries, they're just going to outlast you. They're going to outlast you. And that's my concern for the Celtics. The Celtics are the better team, but the way that the Pacers play, coupled with the strategy that I believe the coach will provide, makes it so that they should be able to match up more evenly than what would otherwise be shown on paper. Because at the end of the day, that coaching difference, coupled with the less being able to be used from the Celtics, means that they need who they're using to play great. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Peyton Pritchard, Drew Holiday, Derek White, Al Horford. These guys are going to have to prove themselves to be worthy of the 63 wins that they've gotten in order to beat this Pacer team who's coming in with house money and a healthier squad with a style that's meant to wear you down. Sometimes it's about styles, man. Styles of the fight that really concern me in this situation, because the Celtics want to shoot a lot of threes. They're not particularly overly intelligent of a team when it comes to clock management and certain things. I've seen them make mistakes. We've pointed them out. They drop games. They tend to take their foot off the gas. And against the best offense in the league, you definitely cannot do that, especially when that best offense in the league is using more of what it has coming against you. If the Pacers get in foul trouble, they trust who they're bringing off the bench to be productive. If they have a rolled ankle or injury issues, they trust who they're bringing off the bench to be able to do the job. The Pacers have that over the Celtics in this series, you guys. They really do. They have that over the Celtics. They go about 9 deep, 10 deep, with the Toppins and Isaiah and TJ McConnell, who's been playing some of the best basketball I've ever seen him play. TJ McConnell is the X factor every series he's in, and as long as he's healthy, you got a chance to have your lead disappear. He gonna steal an inbounds. He gonna get into the line and score the ball on a layup. He gonna hit a big three. TJ McConnell is playing fantastic ball, man. And with, like I said, Halliburton getting healthier, Nembhard being somebody I trust, Naismith turning into somebody I trust, and then you got 2 all-stars in the front court. They're going to need Jason Tatum to not settle for jumpers, man. He can't be taking bad shots, bro. I've watched Jason Tatum too many times in a row this time of year, particularly around the Eastern Conference Finals, turn into a jump shooter. He can beat a guy off the dribble and he'll settle for a jump shot, go 4 for 17. I cannot stress this enough. As long as Porzingis is out, that cannot happen. You need Jason Tatum to play the great version of Jason Tatum, get people off the dribble, get to the line, dunk the ball, facilitate to his shooters. He needs to facilitate the ball to guys like Al Horford, hit to the corner, hit the three. If he's turning into a one-on-one ISO guy who wants to settle for 25-foot fadeaway jumpers, he's going to take possessions away from his team that he can't afford to take away against an offense that's going to continue to keep coming at him in transition. I'm telling you, Jrue Holiday can't have no off game. He can't have off nights shooting the ball. This is my problem with the Celtics. I've seen them at their worst too often. That's what I want people to understand about what I'm trying to express and what I'm saying here. The stuff that the Celtics don't do well, I've laid eyes on too much. I was a fan of that Laker team that beat them this season without LeBron James and Anthony Davis. You see what I'm saying? I watched them wet the bed against this team. You know, I've watched Jaylen Brown turn the ball over and not play at his highest. Even though he get to scoring numbers, he get to 35 points. He turned the ball over 8 times. They kept stealing the ball from him. They kept attacking that weak hand. I've seen Derek White as of late not shoot very well. I've seen Jrue Holiday have an off playoff series last year, which is what ultimately led to him being traded in the first damn place. These are things that I have firmly in my mind. Jason Tatum, I've watched Jason Tatum screw up down the stretch of basketball games, trying to play hero ball instead of making a good play or missing a key shot down the stretch. His clutch gene has failed him more than it's been successful. If he can turn that around and hit a big shot, I'll change my tune. But I've seen him play poorly too often. I've seen him wet the bed too often, despite getting here to this level so many times. They find a way to lose, man, around this time of year. And they're always better than the team they lose to every single time. The Miami Heat, we see them lose to teams they're not supposed to lose to like this every year. And it's usually set up something like what this is right here. And against a Pacer team that has been the best offensive team all year long, people have counted them out all year long. All year long. I do not like this series for the Celtics without Porzingis being able to start the series healthy. They need his 30 points, 15 boards. If Porzingis comes back, they're probably going to win every game Porzingis is in if he's playing like that. He gets his blocks, he gets his shots off, he hits free throws, he creates a dynamic that allows for Al Horford to come off the bench. The Celtics become too much. That's the point of the Celtics, in my opinion. they were too much because that trade that they were able to receive that got Drew Holiday on this squad made them souped up above all of the talent level in the league. Nobody in the league has more star power than the Celtics. That's why they are where they are. It's not because they play that great together. It's not because they match up better against everybody. It's not because they play harder than everybody else. It's because they simply got something out of nothing by getting that trade and bring themselves one of the best defensive point guards to ever play the game. Just because the Milwaukee Bucks decided to do the super team thing with Dame Lillard. That was a fluke. That shouldn't even happen. They traded away two injury-prone players to get this guy in Time Lord and, of course, Brogdon. They traded away injury-prone dudes and got back a key piece that ultimately made them more talented than everybody else. So what I'm telling you is, when you remove Porzingis, that brings him back down to the level of the field. And then it's about, can you do the little things? Can you play well when you need to? Can you get the key stop? Can you keep up with that offense? Can you get out in transition? Can you force the Pacers into a half-court game for which they probably don't want to play? Can you keep your eyes open when TJ McConnell's on the floor and not give up silly turnovers and Philly fouls? Can you hold off Andrew Nembhard when he's playing well? Do you have the horses to keep Pascal Siakam from getting to the rim and laying the ball up repeatedly on you, getting foul calls? Can you withstand when he does if you get in foul trouble with key players? Do you trust Sam Merrill? Do you trust who you're bringing off the bench? Like, these are the problems with the Celtics. So, yes, are the Celtics a better team? Yes. Do I like them in this series? In a nutshell, of course, they're the better team. But when I look closely at this series, when I look a little deeper at it, I look at the Pacers being able to hit them just right. If a team punches you in the only spot that you can't defend, if you have the ability to defend everything that's around you, but you got that one spot that's open, and the team you're going against just so happens to be an expert at hitting that spot against anybody they go against, that's kind of what this is like to me. That's kind of how I look at this. If you're susceptible to the right hook, and this team's best punch is their right hook, that's kind of how I look at this Pacers Celtics series. I do not like this for the Celtics now that I've done homework. I don't like it. I think the Celtics can win this series, but I think the Pacers are set up to outperform them based on health expectations, speed and pace of play, matchups that are helpful, and just the flat-out understanding that they are down two centers to start the series. The Celtics must take care of home court to start the series. They got to get the first two games in this series. Just like I said, the Knicks needed to get the first two games. The Celtics need to get the first two games. Even though the Knicks got the first two games in the series, they weren't able to stay healthy enough to outlast the Pacers in the end. But I can argue because they won them first two games, it got as far as 7. It might not have gotten as far as 7 if they would have dropped them first two. I think the same thing about this series. The Celtics need to take advantage of the fact that they have home court advantage, because if they drop one of those first two games and this thing goes back to Pacerland and they ain't got Porzingis back and the Pacers got a 1-1 series, this series is going to be uncomfortably long, and the longer it plays out, the more health is going to be the determining factor in my mind. The more chances the Pacers and Carlisle gets to look at you, the more opportunities he's going to be able to take advantage of Peyton Pritchard's endless three-ball shooting, mindless offensive schemes. I'm telling you, this is when you part ways. This is when you part ways as it pertains to the coaching battle. You need your coach to be better in this series if you're the Celtics than what it's capable of being, in my opinion, going up against Carlisle. Yeah, I felt the same way about the Heat if the Heat were healthy. Because the Heat weren't healthy, they weren't able to take advantage of that, with Spoelstra being so much better than this coach here, Mazzulla. But Carlisle going up against Mazzulla with all of his horses, in fact, his team is more healthy than Mazzulla's? Oh no. Everything in my basketball gut is telling me pick the Pacers in 6 or 7, bro. Everything in my basketball gut. Now, conventional wisdom tells me to pick the Celtics in like 4, because the Celtics have been the better team all year long than everybody in the Eastern Conference. But the problem is the Celtics are going to have to wake up, snap out of playing these weak teams, and go up against a team that's been playing against scrappy teams who ran them all out the gym. Teams that play harder than the Pacers, they beat those teams. And they beat those teams by outlasting them, by getting so much production off the bench that they could withstand foul trouble, injuries, cold games from certain players. They were able to withstand all of that. Their margin for error for the Pacers, based on that dynamic, is larger than the margin of error for the Celtics, based on their lack of depth. Lack of depth. And I'm going to say this about the Celtics, the same thing I said about the Knicks. They need Porzingis to win this series. The Knicks, it was OG Anunoby. If OG wasn't on the floor, my Knicks in 7's prediction was going out the window, because I did not believe that the Knicks had enough to keep up with the Celtics if they didn't have OG Anunoby. And I'm telling you right now, if Porzingis don't hurry up and get his butt back on that floor for the Celtics, the Pacers are going to win this series in 6 or 7 games. Because they're not going to have enough, coupled with the deficiencies of this coach, coupled with some of the deficiencies of these key players who are constantly going to be on the floor if they don't get in foul trouble. If those deficiencies are exposed, it plays in the Pacers' hands. If those players have to get off the floor and that bench is exposed, that plays in the Pacers' hands. Pacers bench versus Celtics bench. I'm taking Pacers bench 100% of the time. It's not close. I like Peyton Pritchard. I like Al Horford if he's coming off the bench. But if Al Horford has to move to the starting lineup, what do I have? Sam Hauser. He gonna have to ball out for the Celtics off the bench with whatever minutes he's given. He can't be a deficient player. It can't happen. Not when you're talking about Isaiah Jackson coming off the bench. Not when you're talking about Obi Toppin coming off the bench. Not when you're talking about TJ McConnell coming off the bench. There's too much on the Pacers bench for the Celtics to be running the same 6 players over and over again, and any of their deficiencies that they're prone to have show up. Al Horford is a massive piece in this series. Al Horford playing well is everything for the Celtics. If he's doing all the little things, he's going to help his team win the series. I could totally see him being the hero of this series, because he got it like that. He's always had it like that. But you can't have Jaylen Brown turn the ball over. The issues that he has had, they have to go away right now. Jason Tatum can't play stupid Jason Tatum ball. If Jason Tatum's doing for the triple-double thing, that works. I like that for them. But understand, yes, you got fantastic defensive players on Tyrese Halliburton, but Tyrese Halliburton's in a position for which it's all about efficiency, taking care of the basketball, and getting others involved. And I expect for him to play at an extremely high level against good defensive players. He's not going to turn the ball over much. He's going to hit his three-point shot, which has come back over the last couple of games against the Knicks. Tyrese Halliburton is a player that I trust more than I trust Jason Tatum down the stretch of a basketball game. 2 different styles. I'm not saying he's better than Jason Tatum, although I'm not saying he's not. But I think Jason Tatum should be considered better amongst the consensus. But I trust that dog in Tyrese Halliburton more than I trust the poise of Jason Tatum down the stretch of a basketball game. I do not trust him. I don't trust Jaylen Brown. And that's why I'm picking the Pacers to win this series in 6 or 7 games. I ain't made up my mind yet. It's going to be a long series. But I don't think Porzingis is coming back being who he needs to be. I don't trust some of them stars. And I definitely don't trust 3-ball Mazzulla, who's going to launch threes whether they're falling or not. You cannot have some of the games that they've had. The Celtics have played ball at a level that would not beat the Pacers if they would have saw them in the first 2 rounds. And the Pacers have played ball that would otherwise exceed what I expect from the Celtics if they don't elevate their game and being forced to play against scrappy teams. You just got a more battle-tested and a healthier team. And the Pacers, they're more healthy. They're more battle-tested, and they play at a pace that should wear down the Celtics even further than what they've already been worn down. With injury issues that have been popping up to Porzingis, they got to stay healthy from here. So I'm going against the grain. I've been telling everybody on this channel all week long, all month long, that I knew the Pacers couldn't beat the Celtics. I knew this, I knew that. But I've been studying the Pacers for the last 2 hours and studying the matchups for the last 2 hours. And now I walk away having a different thought. I just see better. I see clearly. When you look at this, the margin for error for the Celtics is slim. The fact that the Celtics ain't played nobody means that they're probably going to come in with a certain level of I got it. And they take their foot off the gas and they make mistakes. Mistakes that you're not going to be able to make against this Pacer team right now. Not the way they've been playing. You're not going to be able to do it. I do expect the Pacers to drop some games. I do expect for the Celtics to have a blowout or 2 in this series. I wouldn't be surprised if the Celtics win a game by 30 in this series. But can they win 4 games in this series against a team that's healthier than them with better coaching? I lean toward no. Because they're lacking that thing that makes them so much better than the Pacers, and that's that other superstar that's out. Porzingis comes back, plays at a super level. I'll throw this all away, man. Celtics in 5. Porzingis comes back tomorrow. Celtics in 5, bro. The Pacers are not going to be able to keep up with that star power. It's too much star power. There's too much spacing. It fits too well. That's what makes the Celtics as amazing as they are. If Porzingis ain't out there, it's a different Celtics team. And that Celtics team, I don't think can beat this Pacer team. I don't think so. Not in a 7-game series. So that's what it is, man. I got to land on 6 or 7. I'm gonna let the Celtics get to 7, man. I'm going to let the Celtics get to 7. I'm going to let them go all the distance in my mind. I'm going to say it's going to go 7. I'm going to say the Pacers are going to win that 7th game in Boston, even though I don't necessarily see that, to be honest with you. If anything, I think I see Pacers in 6 or Celtics in 7, to be honest. Because if the game is in Boston, I have to be inclined to believe that the Celtics would win that game. So I'm going to stick to Pacers in 6 just off the strength of that truth. Because if it really came down to a game 7, I don't know that the Pacers could win that game 7. I'm not going to even bullcrap myself when I say that. But I do think the Pacers will win this series in 6. Because I think the Porzingis ain't coming back to play strong enough basketball to win this series. And that's a determining factor as well. If the Celtics do get this to 7, I expect Porzingis to be available for that game, assuming he's rested enough and comes back and gets healthy enough. So in that game, I'd assume he'd play. All things even, they probably outplay the Pacers in a game 7 at home. But if he hasn't returned, I think the Celtics can stretch this out to 6, assuming Porzingis don't come back at all. Pacers in 6 is what my prediction would be, if that can kind of make some sense. And that's really what I see there, man. I see that. I mean, TJ McConnell, Nembhard, the dog, and some of these dudes, I trust a lot more than the Celtics and their just laissez-faire type attitude that they've had to play with pretty much not only all playoffs, but damn near all season. Pretty much all season. They won 64 games, and the games that they lost, they were so damn just absent-minded. It's like, okay, you won all them games off the strength of your talent, but look at them losses and how you lost the games you lost. It was some stupid stuff that the Celtics were doing, and I just don't think you can win this time of year doing some of that. Those things are what I expect to start showing their ugly head right about now. So that's what I'm telling y'all, man. I do not trust the Celtics. I don't trust them. I know they can win a lot in the regular season, but I think they were a regular season team. And they've been able to win in the playoffs because the path has been as easy as anybody's path ever. Now the playoffs actually begin for the Boston Celtics, and we're going to see if they can really do something. If they prove me wrong, it's not like I'm putting any money on this. I wouldn't put no money on this. This is an upset, I'm telling y'all, I expect with my prediction. It's not something I would tell y'all to put money on. Not at all. Celtics are the better team. Have been all year long. But that's not necessarily what I'm measuring here. That's not necessarily what I'm measuring here. That pace that the Pacers play with is strong, man. And if you fall in love with that 3-ball against these Pacers, you could, if it ain't falling, you could die by it. That's the thing. Missoula want to just jack up 45 and 53s. Bro, if they shoot 25% on any of them nights, the Pacers going to outscore them. It's going to happen. Some of them players you got down there that you think you're going to be able to rely upon, they in foul trouble. I think this is a series where if you're going to do that, you want to play your three-point shooters more. I want to see more Sam Hauser, more Peyton Pritchard. Hopefully, like I said, Porzingis got to come back, Al Horford. Those are the people I trust shooting the three ball, man. None of them other ones. Jason Tatum, obviously, but his three ball comes and goes, man. Just like Derek White's three ball come and go. If Derek White goes for 4 threes, I won't be surprised. If he attempts 8 threes and only hits 1, I won't be surprised. So maybe I'm not putting enough respect on the positive things that the Celtics can do. I don't doubt that. But like I said, I don't know, man. I never believed in the core of the Celtics, man. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are good players. They're high-level, superstar-level players. But I never really believed in it. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I never really believed in it. And every time they get close enough to a championship, they always fall short. And I genuinely believe it's because those guys probably shouldn't be together like that. They probably shouldn't. They're really, really good. But they need that super-duper extra star-level talent to get them over the hump. And to start this series, that talent isn't on the floor. That's the bottom line. So if Porzingis come back, hey, the Celtics win the series. If Porzingis don't come back, then we're just looking at, can that backcourt, who's always got the advantage defensively, actually have the advantage in a series like this where the other backcourt is so supremely good too? Yeah, Drew Holiday, Derek White, for sure. Yeah. But guess what? That's Tyrese Halliburton. That's TJ McConnell playing at this level. That's Andrew Nembhard right there. You know what I'm saying? It's like, can they lock them dudes up? Naismith, is he going to play at a high level? Are they going to lock him up? Who's on who? Jaylen Brown's playing the 3-ball. Okay, cool. All right. But, Obi Toppin's coming off the bench, right? It's a lot, man. Isaiah Jackson, it's a lot. The Pacers just have a deeper basketball team. And they've been counted out all season long, so it ain't like nobody expects them to do anything in any of the things that they've done. You didn't expect them to be successful where they were successful. So that's what I'm saying to y'all, man. The Pacers, if I have one problem with the Pacers, it's the same thing I've been telling y'all all season long. They do not play team defense. They don't play team defense. So if the Celtics are playing excellent from the offensive side of the ball, they can keep up with the Pacers. It's a close game. I don't trust the Celtics down the stretch. This is another one of them type of situations where I'm inclined to think that Tyrese Halliburton and TJ McConnell and them are going to probably play a little better than the Celtics unless Al Horford is going crazy and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are really feeling good at the end of these games. But I don't trust too many players on that Celtic team down the stretch of these games, man. As to where the Pacers, I don't have that problem. I don't find myself worried so much that the Pacers are going to make mistakes down the stretch of games. Tyrese Halliburton might be arguably the most poised guard in basketball. So I'm telling y'all, man, I'm going to pick the Pacers. I'm going to go out on the limb and pick the Pacers against the Celtics. I've talked myself into it. And like I said, don't bet on my prediction. Conventional wisdom tells you to take the Celtics. I understand that. I'm poised to be wrong. It wouldn't be the first time I've been wrong. I'm going to go with the underdog here. Not because my heart's in it, even though my heart is in it because I hate the Celtics as a Laker fan. But I ain't thinking about that too much as I look at this situation. I'm putting that aside. And I'm just telling you, the deeper team that plays faster, who's going up against better talent, leading up to this point is the team with the better coaching. It's the team that I'm picking to win the series. That's pretty much what I got to say there. My name is BDF44. I thank y'all for watching. I'm out.